Oh, it's Friday.
Woo!
Come on.
Pumped. It's lunchtime Friday.
Live from Harvard Square.
Oh, womp womp.
The epicenter of the cold, calling this the Cold Civil War 2.0. It's a Business Pants Friday show here at May 23rd Studios featuring analyst Hole Matt Moscardi. Woo!
I think it's the Civic War, not civil. It's Civic War.
Well, it's a Cold War. It's a Cold War and it's a Civil War. I don't know what it is. On today's weekly wrap-up, fake anti-capitalist rhetoric, a big pile of hated directors, and buffet missing shareholders. Notice I didn't say Buffett, not Buffett.
Oh, I like
buffet,
that. Yeah,
buffet
I like
missing.
that. Is that a pun?
Kind of.
I'm not big on puns.
Kind of, because the king of shareholder meetings is Warren Buffett, but we have another type of shareholder meeting story coming up. Our show today is being sponsored by freeflowanalytics.com, the only platform measuring board power, connections, and performance for free.
You know, I love them. I love their data. I use their data today.
I always use it for the Friday show.
I mean, I use it for every show, but like today in particular, got some, like, I went deep. I did a deep dive today. Yeah.
Good.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. Well, I enjoy the first part of your segment, Assholiest, but then I get depressed as it rolls forward.
And the problem is, you always want to just vote for the first one. You're just done.
Well, I think that's really where your anger is strongest. So maybe I'm in tune with the authentic anger in you, not the category filling anger.
Well, I will say this week,
yeah.
The third one is really where I did the most work. So I usually bury the third. The third one's usually an afterthought, and the first two are good. But this week we're going for number 3. Are we ready? Are we gonna let's figure out the story of the week, because otherwise I can't prolong my anger. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Yeah. I don't know. Are mine angry too? I don't even know. Probably. Let's start off with right-wing faux populism.
Oh,
that's a favorite topic in a lot of circles. I'm calling this fake anti-capitalist rhetoric. How about these two headlines, Matt? One happened last Saturday, I believe. Trump attacks Walmart, tells retailer to eat the tariffs instead of raising prices, which is ludicrous in itself, right? And he based that partly on the fact that they had big profits last year. So I again, like
that's a deep dive into their analytics. That was crack team that got that data.
And how about the other guy, the other crazy insurrectionist, Josh Hawley from Harvard? Isn't Josh Hawley from Harvard?
Ooh,
I think so. He blasts Allstate CEO for making $26 million last year while company can't afford to pay out claims. So I guess we're going to see a rise of this, Matt. We're going to see this like fake attack on the executive class, even though they are simultaneously destroying all regulations, destroying all shareholder rights, destroying everything. I don't know, labor rights. Like, they're really... Right, go ahead.
This week, you have the ability to agree with Josh Hawley, which I know lots of investors want to do. Like, that's common. I hear that a lot. But Allstate is up for vote this week. The directors are up for a vote.
Sure.
So I'm just saying, and we pointed out in our Proxy Countdown show yesterday that 6 of the directors from the Wall Street Journal top 250 directors in the U.S.
I forgot about this. Yeah,
6 of the Allstate directors were on that list.
Yes, and
they're up for a vote, and 3 of them failed to deliver TSR, and all their jobs. Like they bat under 400 according to Free Float Analytics data, which means the average directors of 500. They're below 400. They're not good. So now's your chance to go, Josh, I agree, and we're going to vote out some directors. Align yourself with Josh Hawley for once.
I mean, how about this, though? He, first of all, the CEO of Allstate's name is Tom Wilson. Hawley said things like, sounds like you're running a system of institutionalized fraud, which is great, right? Because there is no mechanism now to fight fraud
that's true.
With his party, right? They're dismantling the ability to fight fraud. He also said, I have to notice that your profits have never been better. So we're square back into the stakeholder capitalist revolution is taking foot again, but only in a populist rhetoric, right? There is no meat behind it. It's all theater.
I mean, at what point, did it happen that Josh Hawley's now a Democrat, basically?
Can we call him
right?
an ESG queen? Can we call him a ESG drag queen?
I like that.
I mean, because this is just utter
ESG
nonsense.
drag queen.
Utter nonsense.
I love that. I wonder how many of those there are. That's everyone at Strive, right? Like they're all ESG drag queens.
Where I mostly hate this is that I think we talked about this in an earlier show. Is that there are so many people on the left now who are either giving in immediately to the Trump administration or just refusing to watch the news anymore because it hurts their feelings. So why don't you fight back? Why don't you fight something? Keep fighting your fight because they're not done fighting. They're not done with their lies. They're not done with their rhetoric. So come on, get involved, get engaged. All right. That's my first story. Second story. And this also is kind of, Matt, is on the edge of this fake rhetoric because this comes from Fox News or Fox Business, whatever, same thing. This is their headline. Tesla CFO earns staggering $139 million compensation package. That's their word, staggering.
Wow.
Which isn't news, by the way. It's not that you can't really insert adjectives, and that's not an objective reporting of his pay package.
What
but
do
I
you
do
mean?
agree.
Staggering is
I do agree.
Is
It's
it,
staggering.
Staggering is a measurable number, right? Stagger.
So let me point out some things about. First of all, do I have to go over the list of all the things that Tesla is failing at? First annual sales decline in a decade last year. Chinese automaker BYD surpasses Tesla in European sales.
No, you know what? This is the
sales plunging in California.
This is the CFO.
I don't care.
Right? Like
Tesla led all automakers with recalls last year.
Yeah, there it is.
Tesla's reputation has fallen into the gutter. 95th place now out of 100.
Wow.
And a new Axios
How
Harris
did he even
poll.
get it in the top 100?
Here's the thing that really irritates me about this. First of all, it's a pay package that is it's like the United Healthcare, their new boomerang CEO who's just getting options. This guy, Vaibhav Taneja, I apologize for destroying that name, although everyone destroyed my name as a kid too, so I don't really care. He's getting only equity. None of it's performance based. It's all it's 80% options, 20% restructured stock. Here's the thing that irritates me, Matt, is that I don't know if Tesla's playing a game because they're just angry at everybody, but they're one of the few companies that has not even released a proxy statement in over a year. So when you go to the proxy section of the SEC, there's just nothing there. Right?
I like that.
Nothing in the past 365 days. And this information was in fact hidden not only in a 10K, but in an amended 10K from April 30th, 2025. So I don't know what kind of game Tesla's now playing. They're trying to hide information from shareholders. I don't know what they're up to. It's annoying. Tesla, you're super annoying people.
They had a proxy last year.
That was last year, but typically you see one within a calendar year.
It was. I think they released it because that was the giant pay package. It's just over a year since they did it. It's like,
so why are they putting this? Why are they putting this information in a 10K? Hey, you don't usually see the summary compensation table and the compensation philosophy all within the amended 10K filing.
Nobody uses a 10K, so this was a fun way to get it
stop
out
hiding.
there.
Stop
this
hiding.
is fun.
I thought that Elon was like Mr. Full Free Speech Disclosure dude. Like
what
put
I'm
everything
more
in the
interested
open.
in with the Tesla CFO, who's making $139 million with no performance strings attached, as granted to him by Robyn Denholm, who also has made more than $700 million with basically no strings attached.
Yeah, she just cashed out
share of the board and every other committee on the board, right?
Yeah, she just cashed out another $30 million a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, thank God, she was running out of money. What I want to know is there were reports just like a month and a half ago about Tesla's missing $1.4 billion from its balance sheet.
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever.
Isn't that the only thing the CFO's got to do? Like he's the guy who's got to look under the carpet and like feel between the couch cushions and that's his job.
Maybe Josh Hawley can find it.
Oh,
he's a fraud sniffer. ESG drag queen.
I don't
Josh
like
Hawley.
this as story of the week.
All right, that's the second story of the week. Third story of the week, I'm calling scared bro dictatorships. I wasn't going to pick this story, but the more I looked into it, the more it kind of made me upset. Headline is Duolingo deletes its TikTok and Instagram posts amid AI backlash. So CEO Louis Von Ahn posted a memo on LinkedIn last month that got a lot of press describing plans to make the company AI first, saying they're going to gradually stop using contractors to do work that AI can handle, saying head count will only be given if a team cannot automate more of their work. He also said that there may still be schools in our AI future, but mostly just for childcare. This guy's a real genius, I guess, about everything. He knows about education too. So what happened was they have a very active social media world. Their fans got really upset. The people got upset. There was a huge amount of backlash. So Duolingo took down their accounts. They just wiped everything clean. They just gave up. And then a spokesperson said, finally a spokesperson said, quote, "Let's just say we're experimenting with silence. Sometimes the best way to make noise is to disappear first." And here's why I picked this story, Matt. Because this is yet another dictatorship, this is a bro dictatorship, yet another example of a company that is afraid of any kind of input, any kind of a counterbalance, of oversight. This is led by two co-founders, CEO Louis Von Ahn and Chief Technology Officer Severin Hacker. They control 83% of the board influence, including the freeflowanalytics.com. They control 76% of combined voting power, but not because they own the most shares, Matt. God forbid. It's because their Class B shares are entitled to 20 votes each.
Oh, there it is.
It's just all a made-up nightmare. I am just more and more sick. Matt, it's only these bro dictatorships who don't even officially own control of their company who have control of their company. I'm just sick of it. And they're the ones telling us that, like, we're not going to need schools anymore. The teachers will just be there to like change diapers and
let's implement dual class shares as federal voting policy. I think there should be. I think we might as well. You know what? If we're going to embrace it, let's embrace it. If we're not going to care. If investors are like so casually indifferent to who actually runs the company, whether or not they have any stake in the game, whether or not they can depose somebody who sucks at their job. If we don't care about that, then let's hand out dual class shares everywhere. Like maybe life should just be dual class shares.
You know what, Matt? Here, I agree. Under this principle, the founders always get the controlling shares. They always get the dual class share, the benefit, right? So why don't we revert back? Why don't we give the 13 founding colonies in the United States?
I love this.
They get dual class shares. And I'm looking at you like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, like for instance. So we're going to give them dual class shares. Let them control the company, the country, because I'm sick of what we're getting right now.
I mean, with the exception of New Hampshire, who might be relegated, who might be a founder that was forced to liquidate. I think that's the way it should work. The founding colonies should get dual class shares for every federal election. And then we'll see what happens. Then we'll see if people don't actually like dual class shares.
Yes. Believe me, they won't, because the majority of these founding colonies are in fact currently what they refer to as blue states.
Oh, the woke ones.
The blue states. All right, that's the third story of the week. This craziness over at Duolingo. I just love that they completely dominate their company, and yet they're hiding from a social
complaining.
media.
They deleted their social media.
They're upset because they are saying that we're going to fire everybody for AI, and now they're running scared. It's just so stupid. The last story, another one that gets me irritated, and I'm calling this category the worst kind of suck-ups. This is awful to me. Verizon ends DEI programs and diversity goals as it seeks approval for Frontier acquisition. And then the follow-up headline, Verizon dumped DEI, and then regulators cleared its $20 billion Frontier deal.
On.
And this is A month after T-Mobile did the same thing from April, T-Mobile announces DEI changes in pursuit of Lumos. So a day after T-Mobile said it would end its DEI practices, the FCC gave a green light to T-Mobile's deal with EQT for fiber operator Lumos, whatever that means. And now, Matt, this is from yesterday. AT&T, although I don't know what's going to happen here. AT&T CEO John Stankey is not yet showing his hand on whether he plans to dial back DEI initiatives to gain approval for its big new fiber deal to acquire Lumen Technologies. So let's hope, Matt, that AT&T will be the only one that doesn't back down. But I feel like it's gonna back down, right? I mean,
look. Just as a reminder,
can you believe this is all happening at the three biggest cell phone providers in the United States just in the last month?
Yes, I can believe that.
Really?
Look, we covered in our proxy countdown 2 weeks ago Hans Vestberg, who's the CEO of Verizon.
Absolutely.
Who, I have to credit where credit's due. Hans Vestberg is the guy who wakes up every morning and rates his mood on a scale of like 0 to 5, right? He has a spreadsheet for the last 11 years or something with his mood on it. So I love that data. But his mood must be jolly right now because he's basically like there's no accountability for him. He's on the Blackrock board, and we talked about how he's one of the worst performers on the Blackrock board. We suggested voting against him there. He's the CEO of Verizon, and Verizon's board, this is what we wrote, quote, Verizon's board has returned to 388 in TSR as a group. Vestberg has flatly underperformed. This is a deeply underperforming board with 0 directors batting over 500 on TSR or controversies, despite 2 of the directors being on just the Verizon board. This is a pattern and it's consistent. We talked about how all of these directors are highly interconnected with one another at Verizon. This is a endemic. This company's badly run. So the only way they were going to get through antitrust anymore was to suck up and drop DEI, something they didn't care about anyway. None of this is that surprising. It's also like, somebody stand up and do something?
Transactional. Yeah, it's horribly transactional, which I guess is the
just be clear with the transactional.
The Trump administration.
We just traded basically training highly qualified black people for buying another company.
Yes, exactly.
Effectively. Didn't we stop that roughly around when slavery ended? We stopped treating like people of color like an asset that we could just dump and trade. Like that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing now.
And it's mostly bad for me personally because I just spent the last 3 months of my life dismantling my whole shopping program so I'm completely out of Target now. I've completely moved everything over to Costco, which is, I love Costco, I gotta admit, but it's a nightmare because it's so busy all the time. That's my first problem. The second thing is that I unfortunately am a customer of Verizon.
Yeah, I am too.
And I'm doing some research, but I have nowhere to turn. If AT&T buckles, which we know they're gonna buckle because this is what you do.
T-Mobile?
But no, that's what I'm saying. T-Mobile already in April, they got rid of their DEI. Have you been listening to the show, Matt? I just told you. So that's can I just say that another use of the freeflowanalytics.com data is this wonderful data point that we have, which is the what is it called? The diversity, the gender influence gap. Which tell us what the gender influence gap is.
Let's say you have a board with 10 people on it and 3 of them are women. That's 30% of the board are women. Now we like to think, oh, great. That's, like there's some women on this board. There's a little bit of diversity. Well, Free Flow Analytics measures the power or responsibility or influence of each director individually. So if the 3 women are 30% of the board, but they only have 10% of the power on the board or the influence on the board, that is a gap, an influence gap of minus 20%. Effectively, what Free Flow Analytics is saying is you've achieved diversity without inclusion. You have people there, like body count, but they actually have no responsibility or power to actually influence outcomes.
So, case in point, Verizon Communications has a minus 15% gender influence gap, which is big.
That's big. That's
so there
big.
you go.
Yeah,
So
the average is like 9 or 10%.
There are already indications that they didn't care. So this is a company you could have already been engaging with. This is a foreshadowing to one of my upcoming stories for Good Leaders of the Week, is that you can already be targeting directors to vote in and out based on some of your investment philosophies. You don't have to be waiting for Josh Hawley to shout or for Verizon to dump DEI. You can actually be using the data at freeflowanalytics.com to make investment philosophies and decisions even before that.
So my options are basically 4 different assholes. Like you did assholiest of the week is what you did.
That's not intentional.
And you didn't even include the Harvard story, which broke last night.
Well, how do
right?
I know you're covering that in asshole.
I will cover it, so we don't have to cover it here.
I try to stay away from squarely like a political zone. I don't know. I know there are a lot of directors from corporate entities that sit on these Ivy League boards and just university boards in general, but I don't know that it really fit into our zeitgeist for Story of the Week.
Well, we'll come back to them.
Okay.
Out of these assholes, which are the right-wing faux populists, Tesla CFO, and Tesla in general, more or less. I'm going to skip Tesla in general. Like paying their CFO $140 million and string-free compensation. Yeah,
that's how their compensation committee
That's
rolls.
how it works, right? Like that's about the amount of money. That's probably more money than they made on Cybertrucks last year, like those shitty Cybertrucks.
Yeah.
Scared bro dictatorships. That seems like. I mean, like that seems like every week. Like
it's just the Duolingo story is kind of fun because it's just like you don't see. First of all, it's a fun backlash against AI friendly CEO, and also it's like fun. It's funny because they erase their posts. But yeah, I could see why that would be your story of the week.
I think I'm down to Verizon and the transactionality of trading black people for a telecom company.
Especially, Matt, as an industry trend. This is trending in the industry. It's like super scary.
It's how many black people do we have? Like when you're done dropping your DEI programs and you've run out of like black people to trade, what are you trading next?
What do you throw in the volcano next? Right? Yeah. I mean,
I guess we're just going to throw in all the women next, right? Like
embarrassing. I find it horribly embarrassing. Honestly.
So between that and right-wing faux populism, which I know right-wing faux populism is not like a new thing, but Trump basically telling Walmart to eat the tariffs and companies knowing that tariffs are the driving reason for having to raise prices. Like it is such naked, horrible graftiness, right? Like it is like Trump is basically saying like, I'm an idiot, but I don't want you to tell anyone else I'm an idiot, right? So you're going to eat my idiocy. You're going to make me look better.
It is stakeholder capitalism, is it not? Isn't that what... wouldn't we spend...
it is political. It is purely political.
No, I'm sorry, but
he's not doing it because he cares that somebody's going to have to pay more. He's doing it because... He doesn't want to get blamed.
But isn't the whole anti-ESG movement that we've been suffering through the last few years, isn't it all about hands off our precious corporations? Don't do anything that is not just shareholder first, not just profit driven.
Do what I say, not what they say. The whole thing is just, that's the thing. The thing is like you've been doing what they say, but not what I say. Now do what I say instead. It's between those two. In the spirit of assholiness, I'm going to go with Verizon ending DEI because it's not that they ended DEI, it's how they're ending DEI.
Yeah, it's so transactional.
Reason why there is nothing worse. Like, I don't know how many people of color listen to this podcast. I don't
know.
Do
you know how many people?
Do
you know how people in general listen to this podcast?
I think we have 3 listeners. So maybe one of them, or 2 of them, or all 3 of them are people of color. You have to ask yourself: am I willing? Is my future career? Because mostly what they're dropping is targets for hiring, is training programs. It's stuff that basically is
inclusion programs. We're
inclusion
talking
programs
about
because
our gender influence gaps. Yeah.
Lest we forget, Vivek Ramaswamy came on this show to tell us the reason why there aren't a lot of black CEOs in the Fortune 500 is because of critical race theory. He effectively said there's been a disadvantaged system that doesn't put people in a place on average to have as much success as sort of their white male counterparts, right? That's he said that effectively here. I'm agreeing with Vivek.
They were barred from opportunities to succeed, essentially.
I'm agreeing with Vivek, right? You won't hear that often. But in this case, now we are taking away the things that level the playing field or attempt to level the playing field as a bargaining chip to buy something that makes Hans Vestberg lots of money, that makes shareholders lots of money. That's it, straight up. Like it's a one-to-one transaction. Your future and your career and a level playing field for you traded for money right over there. Just some money. That's it. That's where we're at. That's a horrible, horrible future. I don't like this. You know,
not only that, Matt, but a lot of these
unhappy.
A lot of these M&A deals don't necessarily work either. It's not like it's guaranteed success that buying Frontier. I mean, it may very well be
$20 billion for Frontier. Frontier, is the last person that does like plug-in phones, right?
It very well might pay out on the long term, but it might not. That's the crazy thing. It's not like it's a done deal, right? It's like a done. All right, can we move on?
Yes, let's move on. All right. What do we have next? We have
Goodliest.
Goodliest.
Which I'm looking at the Goodliest. Well, I don't know how good these really are. Maybe we failed. We did have a good game earlier this week on Tuesday. So if you want to hear some actually good stories, go download that episode and listen to it. But both of these stories seem a little tongue-in-cheek. But my story really accentuates the goodliness of our product, maybe, of data, of director data, maybe. I don't know. Here's the story. Most U.S. executives want to remove at least one director, according to a survey from PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yeah.
Listen to some of these stats,
I love
Matt.
it.
Listen to some of these. 93%. That's basically a full. That's basically like all of them.
That's all. Yeah.
Said they wanted at least one director to be replaced. Matt,
93% of my children want pizza tonight.
If that's not enough, 78%, which is basically still all of them, said 2 or more should be replaced. Half of them said that they're worried about directors' performance being diminished by their advanced age. Of course, again, like how do you quantify performance?
How do you quantify advanced age?
That's true too. Half are also worried about directors serving on too many boards. And how about this one? A third of them believe their board, only a third of them believe their boards have the right skills and expertise.
So
think about that. Think about that. Only a third. Yeah.
Like, don't they largely choose them? Right? Like, it's...
Of course. Yeah.
Like, this doesn't happen without CEOs involved.
America, it's even hard to find, especially the Fortune 500. It's often hard to find companies where the CEO is not also setting the board agenda by being the chair.
So is this goodliest for you simply because it's so shockingly stupid?
Matt, I hear pushback all the time, especially from you who do the most talking, God bless you, to potential clients and clients, is that a lot of them are just a little bit uncomfortable with the notion of voting in or out directors that they hate or love. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay. Even the people at the companies hate their own directors.
Let's
it's okay.
Come back to that. That's one of my options for asshole of the week.
And not only that, I just want to say quickly, you don't have to be so negative about everything, people. You don't have to purely look at it as, oh, I don't want to vote out Dave, because you can also be looking at it as, I have a very qualified candidate, Julie, who actually I am offering to put on the board. You don't have to just be negative about everything.
Can we start with Dave sucks at his job and shouldn't be here?
Okay,
can we start with that?
I'm just saying, like, there's a better version of this where we're actually making the company better. But go ahead. Yeah.
Ironically, I totally agree with that because framing wise, investors seem to need that hug before they're willing to like make any sort of decision about directors. But if this were a sports team, you absolutely would not need that. You would absolutely do we ever say that we're not actually getting rid of the worst player on the team? We're just making a slot for maybe a better player. No, we say you're underperforming. We're sorry, we have to let you go, right? Like we are making a slot, but we are making a slot by cutting somebody we can't use. Like you're a nice guy, but it's just not working out. Sorry. That you don't have to feel bad. You don't have to hug them on the way out and say like, this is just to give Julie a shot, right? Like it's just, be okay cutting underperformance.
Well, it's weird too in this age of mass layoffs, and they can cut 10% of the workforce pretty easily. But that's a whole nother story. All right, go ahead. What's your goodliest?
I've only got one, and it's the headline was BYD overtakes Tesla in Europe for the first time. That's more bad news for Elon Musk. The goodliest is now that I don't know if this is goodliest, but now I'm full on rooting for China. I never did before, but I'm not alone in this. Here's another headline from this week. Jamie Dimon says, I love a good Jamie Dimon says.
I love it.
Jamie Dimon says he is a red-blooded American patriot capitalist.
He said that before, actually, yeah.
Yeah. No, then he was a full-throated red-blooded capitalist. Yeah. But he sees how China's hustle is paying off.
What does he always have to qualify? Is there a single person who doesn't think that Jamie Dimon is a red-blooded American patriot capitalist?
That does seem to be like that's like I have a black friend. It's like a weird qualification everywhere. Like before you say something that contradicts that.
He runs one of the, if not the most famous American bank. I don't know what else he could be. But by the way, let's not forget that it wasn't that long ago, in the 70s, I believe, where the revolution of Japanese cars kind of took over America. People were hesitant. Let's not forget that the Japanese fought, with the Axis during World War II. They were our enemies for a long time. But what happened very kind of, well, maybe not so slowly, was that Americans realized, oh, these cars are better, they're safer, they're cheaper. So... yeah, why can't we have a nice car from China? What's the difference?
I don't know. I'm really annoyed that I can't get a
where they're
BYD
made.
car. I would like one of those. I'm
That's your
voting for
goodliest,
mine
okay.
as goodliest because we're going to come back to yours anyway.
All right, fine. Let's just call it yours. Let's move on.
All right. That's standing for your standing up for yourself.
Well, with only two of us voting, who cares?
Could be a tie. It could be a tie.
Could be a tie, yeah.
All right, I got three. I got three.
Three.
It's three.
Yes.
It's three.
We're already winning. Yeah.
And the first one, I just cut one. That's how I set expectations and then bring it back. The first one's really short. And you're not going to like the first two really anyway.
I might.
The first one, shareholders lamenting the rise of virtual meetings.
Yes, they want their buffets. They want their breakfast buffets.
Here's the headline. Yeah. Shareholders lament the rise of virtual annual meetings. That was the headline.
Yeah, you just said that. Yeah,
I know. Well, I didn't say the headline. I said. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Look, you guys vote in favor of directors at a 96% rate. 96% is the average for vote.
Well, they don't want to be mean. They don't want to be rude. They lament the hummus. They love the hummus.
What questions would you ask them that you aren't getting to that would change the way you vote on anything? Historically, investors have voted on average 96% in favor of a director. Now, obviously, they have shareholder proposals that are non-binding that they also can vote on. But having a virtual meeting actually doesn't make a difference because you don't vote the votes that you have in any way that suggests you're getting anything out of the face-to-face meetings. So did you miss the FaceTime where you could have voted 97% in favor of them?
We're social creatures, Matt. They want to enjoy hummus with their friends.
Like, what questions do you want to ask? Like, what do you want to ask them? Can we get a list? Can some investor who listens to the show send in a list of the questions that you would ask at an AGM that could change your vote I don't want a list of questions that you're just curious about. Like, what are you doing about AI? But I mean a question like you would ask a set of directors or the management of the company that question, and it would change the way you vote. Because the reality is, none of you vote against anything for the most part. Like, that's not true of some of the pension funds. I get it.
Matt. They just want to be there.
But come on. What is?
All right, okay.
All right, that's number one. Number two.
I'm not voting for that one, by the way.
I know. You should think about it, though. Number two. Shareholders who are afraid to vote against directors. This is a common theme, right? Like, because you brought this up, 93% of U.S. executives desire board member replacement, survey finds. 49% of directors think directors themselves. So, shareholders, this is the situation you're in. 93% of executives think that a board member should be replaced. And as Damien said, more than 70% of them think at least two or more should be replaced.
At least.
Two or more.
Now we're getting up to a full, 25% of the board, basically, in most cases.
Two or more. Meanwhile, 49% of directors think another director should be replaced. So you have basically half of directors think someone in the other half should go, and 70+% of executives think two or more directors should go. Could you just grant them their fucking wishes? Just choose one. And if you can't choose one, I'll do it for you. I like the directors actively on two or more boards who have served on at least 3 boards in the last 7 years. I filter them just straight up by performance. This is using free float analytics data. I just look for, are you below average on earnings, TSR, and controversies? Do you underperform?
Yes.
So you've had multiple years across multiple boards to do just fine, right? To just be average, but somehow you are below average everywhere you go.
So you're not just worried about diminished performance that comes with age. You're just worried about just bad performance in general.
I'm just saying, you've had years to perform and you haven't done it, okay? There were 66 options to choose from in the U.S. just looking at this quick filter. This is a quick filter. And they included people like Randy Weisenberger at Valero Energy and on the Carnival board. He's on multiple boards now. How about Robert Johnson on Spirit Aero, Roper, and Spirit Airlines? Or Arnold Donald, who's on 4 boards right now. Salesforce, B of A, GE, Vernova, and MP Materials. If you don't recognize those names, investors, shame on you. If that sounds like random directors, Johnson has been on the boards for 18, 19, and 14 years respectively. Robert Johnson has been on boards for more than 14 years, the boards he's on. Weisenberger, 14 and 16 years. Donald's been on B of A for 12. These are people who have been around. They're tenured. They've had plenty of chances to perform. They've proven they're not really good at overseeing performance. That's what they're not really good at. Vote them out. Yeah, because they don't even want to be there. Somebody else is saying, "Can we get rid of these people?"
I was going to say you don't even have to be that excited about it anymore because the board agrees, the executives agree, everyone agrees.
Everyone agrees. Get rid of somebody.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable that we're in a position that we can't get them voted out.
Matt, we reported on the proxy countdown, which we recorded yesterday. Otis Worldwide, 61% of shareholders voted against Say on Pay. 61% said no to their pay plan. And yet they supported, on average, 98% support for the directors.
That's what are you doing?
They supported the exact directors who wrote the policy that they all hated. That's craziness. That's crazy talk.
Forget you can. I'm just using performance numbers to give you a filtered list that gives you the ability to go to these companies and vote these people out, knowing full well that both executives and other directors agree with you. Actually, the only engagement question you should be asking when you go meet with a board, if you meet with a board, if you're a big enough investor to get on the phone call, meet with the board, you're sitting there and you're doing your engagement questions. You're asking about what's your AI strategy or how you're dealing with carbon and climate change or what about this major merger or acquisition, whatever. You got all your questions. Your analysts have written them all out. You had your UBS AI clone analyst write down your list of questions for you. You're sitting in front of that human being. You're asking them question by question. Ask them as as the last question, which director would you vote out in this room if you were to vote somebody out?
Yeah,
Can you imagine, like, quietly asking the directors, like, hey, just out of curiosity, if you had to pick somebody for us to vote against, who would it be?
Yeah.
You don't need more than that, because they're not.
And you know what? I'll make it easier for them. They don't even have to say the name. They can just look at the director.
I think they should get a bottle and spin it in the middle of the thing, and rather than kissing the director, they vote them out.
No, that's not. That's how ISS would do it. No, we actually have data that would support a logical decision.
So that where you thought that was goodliest, it totally triggered me. And why on earth are these shareholders not voting?
Well,
these people
I'm just saying
out?
it's good because if you ever get in a conversation again with a potential client, you could just say, "Look, I hear your concerns, but I just want to show you the data. I want to show you the survey."
Yeah, I want to.
You don't have to say. You don't have to call them an idiot.
No, it's fine. I'll call them an idiot.
Yeah. All right.
And number 3, my number 3 asshole of the week.
Oh no.
Harvard board members.
Wait, the board.
Harvard board members.
So you
not
are
the
also
board
mad
of
at Harvard. Yeah.
Not the board of Harvard. People who went to Harvard who are currently sitting on corporate boards.
Oh, I have this misread. That must be a lot of people, right?
I pulled all the data from Freeflow Analytics. The headline is DHS barred Harvard from enrolling international students. So the Trump administration is targeting just Harvard. They want to revoke their nonprofit status. They're now not trying to not allow them to have international students, which are a quarter of their student population. And this is because these directors, these very rich business people, have let Bill Ackman be the big fat useless mouthpiece for Harvard alums, right? Like he's the guy who gets Claudine Gay fired. He's the guy who's basically saying the Trump administration should attack Harvard.
Firing a black woman is a feather in your cap if you're a Bill Ackman type, right? Because that's the meritocracy fire, the anti-DEI fire.
Well, there's one Bill Ackman.
Yeah.
And I am wondering, where the hell are the rest of the Harvard alums with money standing up and saying, this is not cool. Nothing about this is cool.
No.
So I looked.
Not only against Harvard, but against
data.
America. I mean, it's a two-pronged attack. Yeah.
There are 2,173 companies in the Freeflow Analytics database that have at least one director who attended Harvard.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
2,100 companies.
That's
there's only 9,000 companies in our database,
amazing.
and that's global, right? Like that's like Malaysia, right? Like that's everywhere. 848 of the companies are non-U.S. companies. So like there's almost 1,000 companies that are outside of the U.S. who have people who went to Harvard. Those are the international students you just stopped allowing.
Think about that just alone, the lunacy from the fake populist rhetoric of the Trump administration, that they basically want to diminish American influence. They want to diminish our voice, corporate wise, worldwide. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, 4% of all global directorships, not directors, directorships are held by what we know are Harvard alums. That's only what we know.
Right. Because the data is not, unfortunately, that is not a required data point to disclose. So we're relying on these directors and companies to give us that information. They're not required to tell us where they went to school.
And in the U.S., that number is more than double. 9% of U.S. company directorships.
That's incredible.
1 in 10 directors is from Harvard in the U.S.
Wow. That's crazy.
The average network power of a Harvard director is $6.2 trillion. Network power being their friend, like how much market cap their friends and their friends of friends control, right? So the average director globally is 2.6 trillion in network power. Harvard directors are 2.5 times that. They have 2.5 times the power of an average director. They have 13% average influence compared to 11% for everyone else. On average, 38% of Harvard directors are measured in our database as having merit on paper, where 20% of non-Harvard directors do. And it's driven not by the fact that they went to Harvard. It's driven by the fact that nearly 2/3 of them have core industry knowledge on the companies where they sit. And more than half of them ended up being company leaders, CEOs, board chairs, lead independent directors, where only 19% of non-Harvard directors have core industry knowledge, and less than half of them are leaders, right? Like these are on boards. Where we have race and ethnicity data for Harvard directors, which is 1,600 Harvard directors, 28% of them are non-white.
That seems pretty high.
Compared to only 16% of non-Harvard directors who are non-white. It is insane.
Yeah.
You have a diverse cohort, a more diverse cohort, I should say, of highly intelligent, very wealthy, very powerful people who are not saying shit about what is happening. There should be a slew of press releases from these human beings. From just saying, like, did Harvard not help you get where you were? That, like, you didn't meet anyone at Harvard who helped? Having the Harvard, name on your resume didn't help you get your first job? Is there no culture of Harvard where you care about other Harvard people? I hated Harvard. I currently don't like Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. I don't like Harvard. But this is madness. Somebody needs to stand up. Some coward needs to stand up.
And by the way, nobody cares about who Matt likes and doesn't like. I don't care if you liked or didn't like Harvard.
But the fact is, these Harvard people are everywhere, and Bill Ackman's the only one who's out there saying Harvard is like a shithole that needs to be torpedoed? What are you talking about? Harvard is set up 9% of U.S. company directorships are in part set up because Harvard existed. The name Harvard gets people indoors, right? They have more power, more money, more friends. They're more diverse than every other cohort. I actually went through the effort to take the top 50 last names that are most commonly Jewish last names to just test whether or not the anti-Semitism trope at Harvard, like whether or not it manifests outside of Harvard, where we see like there's less Jewish people from Harvard than in the general U.S. directorship population. Unfortunately, the data sucks so much, I couldn't tell. But the reality is, I have to believe that Harvard is actually a net benefit for these people.
Yeah, well, this is the sadness of all of this rhetoric, which is under the guise of there's anti-Semitism at these places, right? Columbia, Harvard, but every institution they're attacking, the Trump administration attacking, is hurting Jewish people because the Jewish people have a very strong presence at academic institutions, including the Ivies, very strong presence in sciences, the arts. I mean, so he's just attacking the very people that they're pretending to care about. And by the way, no one really buys that the Trump administration or Republicans care about Jewish people anyway. But
I don't pretend to know whether or not Harvard is anti-Semitic or has systemic bias. I think it's a little ironic that we are not worried about systemic bias against black people, but only systemic bias against Jewish people.
Well, you say we, you're talking about the Trump administration.
I'm talking about the administration. But also like the colleges. I'm sure there's systemic bias at colleges everywhere. You don't think Texas A&M is like discriminating against somebody, right? Like there's systemic bias everywhere. That's the point. That's the point of like DEI. It's to eliminate systemic bias. It is to level the playing field. So the grand irony is we're worried about a systemic bias at the expense of all the other systemic biases that also exist. Regardless of that, that's not the point.
It's an interesting question, and it's one of the reasons why we call directors a protected class, right? Because borrowing from the other story where we have 93% of executives say that they should replace at least one director, 6% replace at least two directors, and yet we get constant pushback to, we can't replace directors, like that would be rude. But this protected class is 9% of Harvard directors. You're saying why do they fear talking back? Why do they fear opening?
You get voted out?
Well, but I'm saying, do they fear it because they know they're part of a protected class like this? Like they don't want to leave this brotherhood? Is the brotherhood more important than the rights of their this educational university? You know what I mean? It's like why won't they open their mouths? Do we have any idea?
I don't understand it. You can't get voted out of the board. Like you could take a dump in the center of the like the boardroom table.
But what I'm saying is
no investor's going to vote you out.
is that this is such a rarefied, protected class that they cannot lose their jobs. They cannot get voted out. But that is why they won't open them up, because they have such fear of leaving that brotherhood. Like that.
I don't know
the
that
most
they
important
would.
thing is that brotherhood, right?
I mean, like, why does it work in the reverse? Like, why does Bill Ackman get to say whatever the hell he wants, and it doesn't cost him anything? Like, it doesn't cost him anything.
Well,
this is the cowardice, right? Like,
the only example we're seeing of this recently is Target, which Target's the only company that has that they're saying that is losing business because of their rollback of DEI. They're the only one. So
Target's losing business not because of the rollback of DEI alone. They're losing business because they ping-ponged because they have no viewpoint, right? Like they effectively were like, we're just going to sell something and make as much money on like Pride Month as we can. Or like Bud Light, we're going to give a trans person a beer can because we're just going to sell everywhere that we possibly can. And ping-ponging back and forth by saying like, oh, no, we don't actually like trans people, or, oh, no, we're going to hide the pride stuff in a locked room in the back, or we're going to take it out of some stores because those people near there might be offended by them, means you have no viewpoint. And frankly, even if Target went back to DEI, they've lost everyone. No one would believe it. The problem is the ping-ponging.
But my point is, what do these directors who went to Harvard, what do they feel like they have to lose to stand up for Harvard?
I don't know.
That's what I don't understand either.
Even if half of them said something, or 20% of them said something.
But do they feel like it's the equivalent of Bud Light giving a can of beer to a trans person? Is that what they fear? They fear like that the Trump people are going to come after them, or they fear they're going to lose their life? Like, what do they fear? I don't understand.
But if that is the fear, we're already in a full dictatorship, right? Like, so you either stand up and you say something because we're not in a dictatorship and you can, or you sit down and we are in a dictatorship.
I hope if there are any, I know we have, there's some evidence of like some journalists who listen to these shows, and certainly some executives at some companies. I hope that they pick up on these data points that you've just presented, because this is an important part of this puzzle. And reach out to Matt if you want to use some of this data, because this is a very important part of this fight, this struggle with Harvard versus the Trump administration, is that the amount of corporate power that comes just from Harvard alone should be enough to quell this immediately. And and somebody should be pointing out this brethren of corporate power, right? Because again, like everything else that we complain about on these shows in our company, is that they just are allowed to remain nameless and faceless. Like if a guy dribbles the basketball off of his foot in a big game, they will hound him for weeks.
Forever.
But these guys, they get to hide forever, and they should stop hiding. And now would be the time to come out. You have Matt, the data you are referring to here is an incredible amount of collective power. 90% of all U.S. company directorships are held by people who came from Harvard. That's incredible. It's incredible.
1 in 10 directorships.
That's incredible.
It is I hope
some other.
when you look at the
I hope
data.
other news agencies can pick up on this data.
And I didn't even go into nonprofit directorships, right? Like what nonprofits these Harvard public directors who went to Harvard, what nonprofits they sit on, or their connections to their boards, or like there's so much power and influence. Or this doesn't cover like law firms with, Harvard law people. And I have no idea why you're all like, we should have a press release signed by 1,000 Harvard alums from public companies saying this is not okay, especially the fact that 850 companies, non-U.S. companies, have a Harvard alum on the board, right? Like those boardrooms en masse should be saying we value the abilities and the cachet and the influence and power and networks and intelligence of all these people from Harvard. Like we use them in boardrooms. We value it. What are we doing? Those are my three. Those are my three.
Well,
so you've
give
got
me a quick recap. Yeah.
Shareholders lamenting the rise of virtual meetings.
No,
shareholders afraid to vote against directors, despite the fact everyone agrees with them. They should vote against them. And Harvard board members.
Well, this is a tough
silent.
one. It's tough to call them assholes already. Maybe they won't sit silent. Although I know they will.
Harvard's been under attack for 6 months.
That's true. That's true.
And Bill Ackman got Claudine Gay fired. Where were you then? Come on, people.
Because of handling how she essentially handled a student protest. Which there have been student protests. That at universities forever in America. That's
come on.
One of the great things about American universities.
Say something.
I'm struggling in this one because. You know what? I don't know. You're right. If you dial it back to when Bill Ackman started this charade of a fight, then maybe you're right. Maybe why haven't we heard their voice?
That's right. Why haven't we?
The reality is that other than this data set that you've just accumulated, they probably don't have a means of exercising collective power, right? They don't have a LinkedIn group, right, where they should. Or a Facebook group or whatever.
There's a Harvard club in every major city.
That's true.
They can talk to each other.
But imagine if we could assemble that group today, like all 9, right? That's an amazing, and that group could just go right to the White House, and it would be wonderful. It would be a great.
That would
be a protest I would like to see televised. But I feel uncomfortable calling them assholes because but you're right, they're not going to do anything, and they should. So I'll call them assholes.
Oh, I got you. I got you to do something you didn't want to do.
Yeah, it's a confusing list of assholes this week, and the shareholders who are afraid to vote against directors. That's every week. So I don't know if I can.
I don't know. Now they just have evidence that no one wants someone to be there.
True.
Right?
True.
So what are you doing? Just can you grant them their wish? All right, let's get out of the show. Headlineists, winners, predictions before the show takes on its 7th hour.
I have one headlineist. So I'll go first. It's easy. Chicago Sun-Times print summer reading list full of fake books.
Wait, what?
Reading list.
Did they just have AI write the list?
Yes. And you know how many fake books, Matt? A full 2/3. 66% of the books were made up books. Can you believe it? With real author names, including the examples Tidewater Dreams by Isabel Allende and The Last Algorithm by Andy Weir.
Wait a minute.
They made up 2/3 of the books were made. This is craziness. This is craziness.
Did they? So the job was give me a list of summer books to read, and someone wrote that in ChatGPT.
A recommended list of books. Clearly they didn't ask a reader to do this.
And then they just printed it? They didn't even check if the books existed?
No.
Wow. I love that. That's great.
I was going to ignore this story at first because I thought what? Like a couple of titles were wrong. Because I told you this before. I've been starting to use AI a little bit to help me with some of my research, but it's now just dawning on me how often it's wrong.
Yeah, it's very wrong.
In fact, you can ask the same question 5 times in a row and it'll spit out different answers. So you do need to do your own research on top of their research. But 2/3 of the books were made up? 2/3! How could you even get that wrong? All the AI has to do is look at the New York Times bestseller list and just take 5 of the books. That's it. Done.
Sun-Times. Is there anyone who works there who's read?
That's the problem.
Journalists don't read, I guess.
They couldn't find a journalist who likes to read anymore. So that's my headline. What do you have?
I have 3. The first one,
3?
One is just made me laugh. The first one was, buy the dip. You're twice as likely to do that if you're a man.
Buy the dip.
And
what kind of dip?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought nacho dip because I went searching.
Men would do that probably.
And there's this headline, women outperform men as investors, statistics show. So the men are buying some sort of dip, but it's unclear what.
I thought it was smart to buy the market dip. Is that not smart? I don't even know.
I think the smart thing to do is to you invest a little bit every single month, and you don't make sure it's in low risk investments,
and you don't get carried away by dips.
And you don't get carried away.
See,
then what they do is they're like, oh, the market's down, I'm going to take all my money and buy Bitcoin while the market's down. And
yet
I'm
more
buying
proof that men are just as emotional as women, but we pretend like they're not.
Big babies. But here are the other 2. Anthropic's new Claude model blackmailed an engineer having an affair in test runs.
I don't really understand that one.
I love that. I love that. And I just laughed out loud when I read this. Pitney Bowes appoints activist investors as new CEO.
That's a new one.
I just love it. Like the company just gave up.
Yeah.
They were just like, you know what? I'm not even going to fight you. Just take the company. Just it's yours now.
This is a weird one. It reminds me of like corporate raiders, like Bain Capital, Mitt Romney.
But no
like,
corporate raider wanted to be the CEO of the company.
Right.
Like that's what makes it so funny. It's just like, and the picture of the guy doesn't help it get less funny.
No, he looks like a slickster. Kurt Wolf.
He literally looks like he was just shot
Hair
out of
gel back. Yeah.
a 1988
Wall Street movie.
Central casting Wall Street movie. Yeah. Those are my 3 headlines.
We don't need to vote on those. You want to get out of here with winners and predictions?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you got a winner?
Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I'm taking this category seriously this week. My altman is Sam Altman. I hate to say this. Based on this headline I saw from futurism.com, Sam Altman tells staff plan to ship 100 million devices that see everything in users' lives.
No.
And this is because OpenAI is buying iPhone designer Jony Ives' AI devices startup for $6.4 billion. So this Jony guy, I guess he's the quote unquote genius who turned iPhones into the drug that it is. He got the world addicted on these stupid Apple products because of his cutesy design. Now Sam Altman's buying his company, and now they want devices that basically are going to know everything about. They're calling this essentially the start of a Black Mirror episode coming true. I from a business perspective, he's the winner. I mean, it's on people. It's on.
I don't like anything you're saying.
Yeah. Sorry.
I also took this category seriously, and my choice of a winner was Bud Light.
Oh.
Because thanks to one trans beer drinker, all it took was one, everyone shot their Bud Light cans and avoided this. This is the headline: beer is the latest source of hazardous PFAS or forever chemicals, according to worried scientists. So,
Matt, the suggestion is not that they stopped drinking beer; they just stopped drinking Bud Light.
I'm just saying that Bud Light was the most popular beer, and I'm sure someone somewhere
they found a new PFA-filled beer, have they not?
No, they went to like Freedom Beer from a guy's garage, right? Like there's probably less.
And they don't have forever chemicals in those, you think?
I'm just saying a trans beer drinker.
So the winner is Bud Light. Because Bud Light saved us by being open,
by being like
what
trans.
What did Bud Light even do? I don't want to talk about Bud Light again.
Embracing a trans drinker, Bud Light saved us from PFAS.
You mean they handed a can of beer to a customer is what they did?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what we're talking about. This with Bud Light. Okay, moving on. Predictions. I'll go first. Mine's shorter.
I got one.
Again, this is based in real life. This is actually happening to me. So when AT&T gives up its DEI program to the Trump altar, because the headline is suggesting that as of yesterday, they haven't given it up yet, their DEI program, but they're going to.
They
haven't yet.
Well, they haven't because they can bargain with it.
So then I'm done because I'm trying to shop around my cell phone plan. I can't do Verizon anymore because they gave up DEI. T-Mobile gave up DEI last month. AT&T is about to give up DEI. That's the American market. So what I'm going to have to do, Matt, is I'm quickly going to go buy some string. I'm going to empty 2 cans of chickpeas and make some hummus, and I'm just going to start some other new phone company with cans and twine.
That's literally your best idea.
And I get hummus out of it.
Yeah, because there's so much hummus that you're going to get.
Yeah, I love hummus. All right, what do you got?
All right, I have a not as quick one.
Go ahead.
Since this is going forward, this is the headline: antitrust cops say Blackrock, other fund giants may have hurt coal competition. There's a lawsuit coming out of Texas and some conservative states that they hurt competition by colluding to kill coal companies, right? It should actually read company owners ask companies they own to do stuff. That's really all they were doing. That notwithstanding, my prediction: BlackRock will launch a new investment vehicle called Pick Your Own Damn Stocks, We Don't Give a Damn LP,
Ooh.
in which clients can pick their own investments, and they're auto-enrolled in a proxy voting program called Whatever the Fuck Ever, in which voting and engagement are assigned directly to every board chair.
I like this.
That, I think, is the future.
This is the
isn't it?
future. Yeah,
That's
I like
the future.
this. Despite the fact that they want that corporate America is screaming that they want to get rid of half their board.
Yeah, no one likes the board, but doesn't matter.
They're not qualified. We don't like them. We want new ones, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, would you invest and pick your own damn stocks? We don't
Yes.
give a damn? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Boyer Research started Whatever the Fuck Ever as their proxy voting policy. That's
Well, they don't have the data
Rallis.
anyway, so whatever. Who cares how they vote anyway?
That's Hazelnut Rallis. I'm your analyst, Matt Muscardi. We are Free Float. That was our week in review. Come back next week. We've got a show on Tuesday. We got a show on Friday. We got the proxy countdown on Thursday next week. It's a busy proxy season.
We got a new show in the works too. But we're
Shareholder primacy on Wednesdays, and we got a new show coming
We can't
soon.
say that one yet.
Can't say much about it because it's not totally
Not from
finalized,
us, though. We won't be the host, thank God.
Look, if you're looking to join the Free Float Media network of podcasts, reach out. But until then, keep listening and goodbye.